Okay, we're ready to go. All right, we call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. The summer solstice continues. There's no shirts, there's no ties. This is wonderful. We should probably.
Formality.
We should probably.
There are shirts.
Suits, and ties. God, yes, there are shirts. Even the ones we don't want to wear. New glasses, John?
I lost two pairs, and these are like the cheapest pair I can get. So they're not. I just picked up a pair at the drugstore.
So you're blind, are you?
I'm blind as a bat.
All right, we call the meeting to order. The first thing on the agenda is to accept the agenda as presented with, I believe, some additions on the outside. Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any question or comment on the agenda? Anything you wish to add? Hearing none, we'll call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded motion is carried. The minutes from the July 27th council meeting are in front of you, as well as the action report. I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Moved by Councillor Tessier, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Are there any errors or omissions? Errors or omissions we're looking for? Hearing of none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Business arising then from the minutes of July 27th. Anything?
Yes, Your Worship.
From the minutes, Councillor Aker.
Item number 550, Park Avenue. I note, and I don't have the weather records to verify this, but the last 2 weeks the weather's been pretty good. And I think at the time of our last update, there was talk that Park Avenue would be completed within 2 weeks. We've heard some complaints from people trying to navigate up the street at night with the manhole covers raised. And I'm just wondering, is there any next steps that we can ramp this up to get Weir's Construction on the job and get this job completed and finish this job once and for all?
I'll let you know that I spoke with the CAO this afternoon about it. He has been in direct contact with our main contractor on this issue. And the reality here is that they have now been instructed and advised that they are, I understand, starting tomorrow morning on Park Avenue, all predicated upon the weather, and they will not leave this project on Park Avenue any longer until it's finished. I think everybody on the street is justifiably frustrated with it. I know council is frustrated with it, and I got to say it's gone on long enough. That instruction has gone directly from the CAO through the new plan, which of course are dealing with this with Weirs. And I'm anticipating that unless we have major rain in the morning, which I understand we're supposed to have, they will be moving on to Park Avenue, and they won't be leaving it again until the job is done.
So are you saying it's going to take another 2 weeks before?
It should take another week, I think. I'm not sure it's 2 weeks, is it? All right, it may take up to 2 weeks.
They said 2 weeks once they
I know you've had emails, I've had emails. The last one I got from Mr. March today. You fellows may have been copied on it, I'm not sure. I've committed to him this will be done by the end of August. You know, and we're going to have to, in putting together contracts in the future, find a way to build in some kind of penalties for these kind of downtimes. And we need to also find a way to ensure that the company doesn't live up to our satisfaction, I'll put it that way, or to a certain standard that we've developed, that we ought to be able to take a punitive action, and we ought to be able to entertain not using those firms again. Now, having said that, as I said today to Mr. March, we really have not encountered much of this. In fact, this is kind of rare to encounter this kind of a problem. I don't know if that answers your question, Councillor. See, Mr. Lewis, anything to add?
Only thing is that I've also initiated a call with the ADM with Municipal Affairs today also to pursue that exactly. How we can build in changes to enforce performance and compliance with rules and regulations of a penalty that you can either have cancellation or refusal to accept for future work so that we don't run into these problems.
I would wonder, could we not make that kind of penalty thing, I don't know, part of the specifications of a tender?
That's the plan that I'm requesting them to look at and try to see if we can get some consultation with the department and other large urban centers with the administrators, because I'm sure that they're encountering the same level.
The same problem. Yeah, Councillor Tessier, then Councillor, I believe, Lane after that. Councillor Tessier.
Just a quick question then. We've heard now repeatedly that it would be 2 weeks, 2 weeks. You know, I mean, we're all, as we've articulated, justifiably frustrated. Is there a way, a means for us to monitor this now on a day-to-day basis? We say that rain is, they're expected to start tomorrow if there's no rain. We're expecting rain tomorrow. Okay, so
That's in.
Thursday.
The monitoring is in. The CAO is
So
being told
day
every
to day
morning,
now.
every
Day to
morning
day.
that they're there or they are not,
Perfect.
and why.
Perfect.
I don't know what else we can do.
Your
Paul, got a
Worship,
suggestion?
yeah, no, I just had a comment to make.
Yep.
I'm glad we're going to be doing this because I think it's about high time we did it. But I'm wondering, and I think Mr. Lewis did allude to it, should we not be looking at this from a broader perspective through the urban towns or even municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador for that matter? Because one of the fears I would have is that if we put special provisions in our contracts penalising contractors for not being timely, not doing a good job, would that in turn result in us not getting bids because they'd just be bidding on jobs in other towns because they didn't want the hassle that Mount Pearl was creating for them? So I think if we're going to do it, I think it needs to be done, and it should be done universally, perhaps through M&L, so that all municipalities set this same standard, therefore putting everybody on that same level playing field and holding all contractors to account.
That's fair comment.
Not just specifically the Mount Pearl.
Yeah, that's fair comment, and I believe that is being pursued. Well, first of all, it's all part of the change in the City Act. So we know that's where the ADM piece comes in. But I like your suggestion that this should be something that the urban municipalities in particular, and maybe the Board of Directors, Lucy, in particular, should pursue for us as well,
Actually,
to get some universality to it.
We're meeting this weekend actually in Bourgeois, so I will put it on the table again.
That would be a good thing to do.
I know it's been there before, but I will certainly bring it up this coming weekend and make sure that it's being addressed again. And
Perfect.
So I certainly will.
Thank you. Any other comment or question? Sorry, Mr. Lewis?
That was exactly what I had intended in discussing it with the ADM, is to involve MA, M&L, and or the administrators of the open house, so that we can get, ideally what I would like to see is changes in the provincial specifications, so we're all under the same
rules, yeah.
rather than one municipality.
Yeah, exactly. That's
so
good.
Dread, can you send me an email before Thursday for the meeting so I can have the email to bring to I got all the right information?
Okay. Still with business arising, are there any other items? Councillor Aker, that was it? Any other items of business arising from the minutes of July 27th?
Your Worship, I do.
Councillor Lane, yep.
I actually should have brought it up under errors or omissions,
Oh,
really,
that's
but
okay.
but anyway, 553, the East-North Summer Expo piece.
Yeah.
Some of the commentary that I made wasn't reflected there, and I would like it reflected in the minutes because I don't want the record to go down showing that there was, in this case, 15,000 people that are passing through the expo piece, particularly if it comes down to making decisions, future financial decisions and so on with the event and whether it's worthwhile doing and so on. The reality of it is, as I said at the last meeting, is that while I think the expo complemented City Days, was a nice little thing, the tents up there in the field, the reality of it is those people, the vast majority of those people were there for Mount Pearl City Days as they have been every year, not necessarily for the expo. So these numbers are definitely fudged. If a report comes through saying the expo had 15,000 people, I can tell you now that that is absolutely not accurate. I don't know what happened in Corner Brook. I understand it was very good, well attended.
It was.
I have no problem with the event, but as you know, we made a 3-year commitment. 3 years are up. If we're going to continue, there's going to be a new financial commitment next year by the City of Mount Pearl to continue on with this. So I want to make sure that the actual information numbers are accurate when we make that decision, and that's not reflected here in this minute.
But it does say, if I could respond, Your Worship, it does say
Councillor Walsh.
the Summer Expo City Days. Now, I think, Councillor Lane, in response to your question last meeting, we said that what we would provide is a detail, and we have to provide because it's in conjunction with the funding that was approved for the project. We would provide more detailed information. We would do an analysis of the specific event, the East, West, North event, as distinctly different from the Expo. But I think here, for the sake of the community services report, it just reflected that the weekend was a huge success. We did comment on this last time, by the way, Councillor Lane, that it was the first time that they were both combined, and there probably were close to 15,000 people in total for the entire weekend for both events. So, this is not to be misconstrued as being the report on the East, West, North piece. We realize as a council as well, in the third year of a 3-year agreement, that we need to look at, the entire East, West, North contract, the obligations that we've agreed to, whether we need to continue to support this festival. There's a lot of good merit to it in terms of the regionalization and now the expansion into Labrador. But again, it's all very, very preliminary and premature in terms of continuation. So just for the record, what is said here is not inaccurate. If you want to have something added and clarify your points, obviously that's understood and well taken. But what we're saying here is that the weekend was a good weekend, was well attended. The Sunday weather was fabulous, and that brought huge crowds out to the entire event. But I do understand where Councillor Lane is coming from. I mean, we do have to review it, and we do have to provide a detailed breakdown financially and in every other way in terms of the uptake of that event.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier.
Just a quick comment on that. When we're looking at a breakdown of the Northeast, what's it called? Northeast West Expo.
East,
West, North
Summer
Expo. When we're doing that, is the breakdown going to be area specific as well? Like the revenue, for example, for the vendors, for Corner Brook, for Labrador, for Mount Pearl?
I'm not sure if we have
area
knowledge
specific.
of what the vendors made.
Well, I think maybe it's important, and I'm sure it's probably part of the report as well, but I think it's very important that the vendors' voices be heard as well for specific locations to see what works and what does not work.
I believe that's part of it. But the actual dollar amounts that they collected, I'm not sure that that's there.
What we will get, Your Worship, I think, is breakdowns of revenues and expenditures for all 3 areas. Now, there are some agreements, if I'm stand to be corrected by the CAO, but the East and West piece had been entered into 2 years previously. So that was an ongoing agreement. And there was some confusion in breaking down some of the expenses for the East and West portions, because what they did, for the sake of convenience, they said, okay, you cover the expenses for this for both locations. We'll cover certain expenses for both locations. And what we had requested for this year was a specific breakdown of the revenues generated and the expenses incurred for East and West. The North piece, however, is new, and it was funded separately under a separate agreement. So that, we have less control over, and it is in the first year of a 3-year agreement. So what we'll do is provide what was asked for at the end of 2 years, which was a specific breakdown of the revenues and expenditures for both the East in Mount Pearl and the West in Corner Brook, and we'll have that information. I think the Mayor is absolutely right in terms of how this turned out to be a revenue generator for the specific concessionaires. I don't think we'll have access to that, but we will certainly be able to get feedback as to whether or not the venue was good, if it worked better, worked a little worse for them, or whether it was more convenient or better to be part of the overall City Days kind of festival or not. Those are the kinds of answers that we're interested in ourselves as well.
Okay, thank you.
Your Worship, I think we'll get a better idea of when we talk about the vendors. Okay, there's different vendors as well, because there was always vendors at the City Days event in the field. The vendors I would be interested in would be the ones in the tent up on the top field, right?
Yeah, like the chocolate.
Yeah. So I guess it'll be interesting. We're not gonna. I doubt that we're gonna know what they took in, but I do know some of the feedback I had received from people around there in that, is that some of these vendors will
Didn't
not
have
be back.
strong results. No.
They will not be back because they didn't sell anything or very little. So, again, my intent is not to be negative on the overall event. It was a fabulous weekend. It always is. But I think that it's important from the onset that this number of 15,000 people, most of that would have been there anyway, and that's the only point I'm making. So let's not go into it fooling ourselves that those tents were blocked, because they weren't, and that was the only point I wanted to make.
Anything further? Any other business arising? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda, proclamations. Now, today we have none. No proclamations or presentations today. correspondence outside the kit, I have one letter. And that is a letter from the Prime Minister's office from the Minister of Finance, I guess, James Flaherty, and he's relatively long-winded, and basically what he's telling us is that the request on having the GST or the HST removed from the sale of poppies, something everybody was interested in, and the Legion was complaining about. As he explains it here, the GST portion is already removed, which happens with all charities. So we're talking specifically about the PST portion that we would have to address. And I think the minister is kind of making it plain here that that is the circumstance. I don't know whether anybody wishes to comment on this at all or just table it. Anybody?
So this is the provincial portion now.
What you're dealing with here is the provincial portion of the HST, which is the PST.
Okay. Well, Your Worship, I guess if that is the case, and you're right, it is kind of a convoluted letter here. If that is indeed what he is saying, then I would suggest then that we would forward it to the provincial government and ask them that they consider waiving it. I mean, it's the issue is the same issue. We're talking about charging the Legion to purchase poppies, and based on the Legion and what it stands for and everything else, I just I didn't agree with it when it came through first. I still think it's a wrong thing to do. Same as charging people taxes on their funeral. That's another one. But anyway, why not forward it to the province and say, here's the response we got from the feds. They're saying their portion is exempted. Now, why don't you do your share for the Legion?
I'm quite pleased to do so.
So if I need a motion, I can make that motion if it needs to be a motion.
I'm not sure that a motion, everybody kind of agrees we'll do this. Everybody just nod your heads. All right, just on consensus, we will do that. Mr. Lewis? Thank you. That's the only correspondence I've got. Before I move to committee reports, this resolution, where's this to be dealt with in the agenda, Mr. CAO? This is going to come under corporate services, is it? Oh, okay, very good. All right. Moving along, the first committee report that I have then is the right now the Community Services Committee. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Two very brief items, and they're both information only. On Thursday evening, Your Worship, at dusk, we are sponsoring community services at Centennial Park, right next door here to City Hall. An evening movie, an outdoor movie, and it's entitled Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. As you can tell, there's intended humor, and there is plenty of it. It's a good family movie, I'm told. I haven't seen it. I talked to Krista yesterday, and she said it was a fabulous movie, and it's family-oriented. So bring your blankets, bring your chairs, come along. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, although I think the forecast for the next couple of days is not good, although the forecast for this morning was sun, so you can't rely totally on the forecast at all. I'm not sure if they'll pave it, but they'll feed the crowd and feed the masses. Anyway, that's scheduled for Thursday evening. Everybody's invited to come along, and it should be a fun evening.
Bring the kids.
These, by the way, have been really well received in the past, as particularly as part of the City Days weekends. The movie nights, in particular, have been very, very popular outdoor movies. So
I want a drive-in movie again. I want to go to a drive-in.
Yeah, well, that was they had that didn't they do that a couple of years ago? Yeah.
Councillor Tesser.
It says come and enjoy the show and popcorn. Does that mean popcorn is provided?
I saw that, and I don't know. I'm assuming it probably is, but I'm not sure.
I'm going to say yes.
Bring a couple of dollars. But
I think it is. Okay.
So it'll be for sale.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I didn't highlight the popcorn piece for that reason, because I don't know.
We don't know.
But there will be popcorn. The second item, Your Worship, again, the last couple of Monday nights, the Community Services Department, in association with the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl, combined to put off a couple of Monday night features. This coming Monday, the 16th of August at 7 o'clock, again next door, features a family fun evening of arts, crafts, coloring, finger painting, and a
sing-along.
Ding-along? I think it's a sing-along. So again, it's fun for the entire family, and people are welcome to come out.
We have a little typo
to
there.
The ding-along.
With a ding-along. D-I-N-G. Okay. Right. It's summer, obviously.
It is summer.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything else? All right, we are up to corporate services. Councillor Lane.
Yes, Your Worship. First item here is a request from our CAO to attend the 2010 International City Management Association annual conference. Is being held October 17th to the 20th, San Jose, and that's in accordance with our professional development policy and training. So I so move.
Moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Tessier. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Next item, Your Worship, the committee is recommending approval to submit a resolution to the MNL's 2010 annual general meeting for consideration. And the resolution, Your Worship, deals with the moose situation. You have attached. I don't think it's necessary for me to read the entire resolution. But basically, as we know, this is something which is, I guess, affected many people throughout the province. We've certainly seen it here in our own backyard with Councillor Stoyles, and we know the situation she had with her daughter being in an accident with a moose. And I think we had 6 or 7 accidents yesterday or today, was it? Monday?
6 Monday.
6 on Monday. So it continues to be a problem. And so therefore it's the intent that our intent here that the city would bring forth a resolution to municipalities Newfoundland, Labrador, to their convention, calling upon the provincial government to take more proactive action as it relates to dealing with the moose situation. We are not suggesting in this resolution exactly what that action would be, but basically more needs to be done. There are lots of suggestions out there, and we're basically asking the government to sit down with all the interested parties to come up with some solutions that work for everybody.
Sure.
I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment?
I will speak
Councillor
to that.
Stoyles.
First of all, Your Worship, I want to say thank you to all my colleagues here on council for taking the initiative to do this. As Councillor Lane mentioned, there were 6 accidents on Monday alone, 9 since last Thursday, which is only 6 days ago. I was going to say a young man, a 58-year-old man. I spoke to a member of his family just a couple of nights ago, and he's on life support and not doing well. So another, tragedy on our highways, and we certainly, I'm delighted to see our council coming forward and helping to try and solve some of the problems, because we really do have an issue here in this province, and we really need help from all the municipalities across the province, and it's great seeing my own council take part and doing something like this, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other question or comment? If not, I'll call it. All those in favor of submitting the resolution as presented, say aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item, the committee recommends approval to register council members for the 2010 MNL annual convention being held in St. John's, October 6th to the 9th. And I so move.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And the next item, we have a donation request. Committee recommends approval to provide $2,500 donation in support of the MNL annual general meeting and conference in recognition of their 60th anniversary. Again, this convention is taking place in St. John's, and when it takes place in the region, the municipalities within the region on the Avalon always contribute toward it. And this being the 60th anniversary, we're certainly pleased to do that. So I move.
Moved and seconded. My understanding was that this was a sponsorship versus straight donation. This was a sponsorship, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like we will get recognition at the
Right.
conference and so on for
There's levels of sponsorship.
for the
I
levels.
thought it
Yeah,
fit
so
in there. So okay,
really, it's a sponsorship rather than a donation.
but that's
so
fine.
That's fine.
We'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Next item, committee recommends approval to provide a $100 donation to the Mount Pearl Lions Club in support of their fundraiser being held on September 18th at the Reed Community Centre. I so move.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And the final item, Your Worship, is the invoices for approval, the amended invoice for approval on the orange sheet totaling $178,716.27 and I so move.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Tessier, items listed 1 through 12, and then items 1 and 2. Any questions on anything that is there at the moment? Number 2.
I assume number 2 to Sierra is just is that just a progress payment?
That's just the cost of doing the processing and postage for the tax.
No, number 2 in the bottom, the added on. Sierra Planning and Management, this is the,
Just that progress payment, yes.
okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. And that, I think, concludes corporate services. You have nothing outside, do you? You do not, okay. We'll move on. Thank you, Councillor Lane. Economic Development, Communication, Tourism Committee. Councillor Stoyles, if you would.
We just have one item, and it's a recommendation for Councillor Walsh to attend the Business Retention and Expansion International Conference in New Orleans on August
Friday.
the 14th to the 17th, and I so move in this out of his professional development budget.
It is moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Any question or comment? This was tabled at the March 30th committee of the whole meeting. Oh, I see what we're saying. Never
I
mind.
don't know what happened with it.
I don't know what happened to it. That's what
Yeah.
I'm wondering. It
I don't
just
think
we never it just never came
thought
forward.
It did, but apparently it hadn't come forward.
All right. Well, it's good it got caught. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. That concludes economic development. We're up to planning and land use. Deputy Mayor Locke.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item here has to do with a request from our Director of Planning and Development to attend the Canadian Institute of Planners Conference in beautiful Montreal, October 2 to the 5th, 2010. And again, this is within budget allocation for professional development, and I so move.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Locke. It is seconded by Councillor Aker. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And the next item, Your Worship, has to do with a 6-lot residential subdivision for the Farrell Drive area. This proposal has been received by the city and includes 6 single-family dwellings, and it's part of an ongoing infill project in the area. This land is owned by Marley Construction, and Gordon Development will be the developer in this particular case. In this situation, it will require some renumbering in the area, and as a result, there will be 27 houses or units affected, so they will require renumbering, and the committee is recommending renumbering these new lots and the remaining 27 dwelling units in accordance with our renumbering policy. So as such, the committee is recommending that the subdivision be approved and a development permit be issued for the subdivision proposal in accordance with Planning and Development Department report, which is attached, and of course in accordance with the Council's civic renumbering policy, and I so move.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Aker. Questions? Comments? Going once? Twice? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Nice to see that corner filled in.
Yes, it is,
Yep.
actually. Though, you know, the residents up there whose numbers we're going to change will not be happy with us again, but we do fund it, we pay for it, that's right, you know.
It'll be worthwhile once it's completed.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
And the next item I have here is the widening of a driveway on 101 Farrell Drive.
Yeah.
It was noted that a number of front yards in this area had similar work done, so the request is consistent with other properties in the area. And as a result, the committee is recommending that this request be approved and that some form of ornamental fence or separation being constructed to separate the driveways of the adjoining lots, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Aker. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
The next item here, Your Worship, has to do with a request by Sheehan's Holding Incorporated for the subdivision of 84 Glencoe Drive into 2 lots. This property was initially approved as two buildings on the one lot. There are 2 fully serviced and occupied buildings on this particular property, and each of the newly created lots would contain 1 building, and it's proposed to continue to share the joint access. Some concerns were raised here because a development agreement with the city was executed in April of '94 that restricted future subdivision of the property only with the written approval of the city. The concern here was the fact that if we subdivide this lot into 2 lots, that they would be deficient in terms of their internal side yards for the purposes of access. So if they were trying to load and unload materials in the area, it would be problematic. So our department contacted the applicant, advised him of this situation, and the applicant indicated that both companies would be prepared to enter into a joint agreement that acknowledges the joint access and loading area between the 2 buildings. As well, the numbering issue came up again here. Is it's numbered? Currently, it's 84, and the adjacent building is 84A. So it's recommended that we change the numbering to 82 and 84 Glencoe Drive, just for safety reasons and, of course, for identification purposes.
Right.
And this, of course, impacts no other properties on the Glencoe Drive.
Perfect.
So it wouldn't be an issue in that case.
Perfect.
And as such, the committee is recommending approval of the application for the subdivision of this property at 84 Glencoe Drive and issuance of a development permit subject to the regulatory requirements of the city, requirements by the appropriate departments of the city, and the execution of an appropriate joint access agreement. And I so move.
It has been moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any questions or inquiry, comment? Hearing none, we'll call it. All those in favour? Contrary-minded, motion's carried.
And the next item here, Worship, has to do with some requests for fence constructions in 2 locations, 11 Winston Avenue and 9 Derby Place. And our regulations state a maximum height of 6 foot per fence. But in both of these cases, the requests are such that the fence will not impact any adjoining properties. The residence on 11 Winston Avenue backs onto the apartment building on, I've drawn a blank on that road there. No? Where the old City Depot used to be. Riverview Avenue? Yes, thank you. I had a mental cramp there, sorry. So they back onto that building, and at committee, once we looked at it, the height request would not negatively impact any sort of vision, sight lines or the residents of the apartment building. And the second property, 9 Derby Place, this particular garden backs on to the Powers Pond area, and the resident has an elevated deck, and given that and the high usage of that particular area, it sort of infringed on their privacy, so they requested to just add some lattice to the top of their existing fence. Again, our director noted that increased heights in these 2 particular areas will not negatively impact any surrounding property owners and recommended approval of these 2 requests. And the committee is in support of that. So I move that the requests for increased fence heights at 11 Winston and 9 Derby be approved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favour? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
The next item here, Your Worship, is a notice of motion. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, 1988, take notice that in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 1988 that, if enacted, will amend Schedule E land use zoning map of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations by rezoning land identified as Civic Number 835 Black Marsh Road from highway commercial to residential high density or apartment. The purpose of this amendment is to provide Council with the authority to consider a multi-story residential development proposal at this property location. Those lands not being rezoned shall maintain their present zoning.
Thank you.
Dated the 10th of August. And the next one is another notice of motion. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, 1988, take notice that in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 1988 that, if enacted, will amend Schedule C, Commercial General Use Zone Table as follows. Add commercial residential to the list of permitted uses, and add the following to the condition. Commercial residential use at Pearlgate Recreation Center. A commercial residential use shall be permitted at the Pearlgate Recreation Center on the basis of the successful bidders' development plans submitted in response to a request for proposals for a hotel development by the authority. The intention of this amendment is to recognize that a commercial residential use, hotel, motel, or residential club is a permitted use in the Pearlgate Recreation Center area, and the development of the site shall be in accordance with the conditions outlined in the Council's request for proposal for the hotel development in this area.
Thank you.
The next item is the development permit list for July 24th to August 6, 2010. and we have three development permits on the list here, and I move that these be accepted as presented.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
And the next item, Your Worship, is the building construction permits for the time period of July 24th to August 6th, 2010. Residential permits during this time period came in at $384,900, and that brings the total for this time period, or total to date, sorry, for both residential and commercial construction to $37,909,816, and I move that these amounts be accepted as presented.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
And I do have a couple of items outside.
Yes, Ken, continue.
Yep. Okay. The first item here is a recommendation for an order for Nala Limited, property at 19 Commonwealth Avenue. A deficiency notice dated June 15, 2010 was issued to Nala Limited regarding the property at 19 Commonwealth Avenue and outlined the deficiencies that were required to be addressed as per the conditions of the development permit. The notice required that the deficiencies be addressed by July 30th, 2010. As of August 8th, the deficiencies have not been addressed. As such, pursuant to the Urban and Rural Planning Act, the Planning and Development Department recommends the issuance of an order to Nala Limited regarding the deficiencies at 19 Commonwealth Avenue, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Aker. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
And the last item here, Your Worship, deals with an open space license agreement with East Coast Hydraulics Newfoundland Limited of 9 Sagona Avenue. The terms of the agreement are in accordance with Council's decision with respect to offering the property owner the option of entering into a license to occupy agreement with the city that includes approval to erect a fence. The Department recommends approval for the final signature and execution of open space license agreement with respect to the property north of lands at 9 Sagona Avenue, and the committee supports this, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
And that is it, Your Worship. Thank you.
And that concludes planning and land use. That concludes all committee reports today. We're moving on to new business. At the last meeting, we started to the right. We'll start to the left. Councillor Tessier.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of very quick things. I guess we could have done it when we were going through the minutes, but we had our opening of the artificial turf at the Team Guju complex. I think we were all there, and the city itself was well represented with people in the stands and certainly with different members of government. But it was a really proud moment, I think, for all of us, because that field, if you're there and you see it, you see how impressive it is. And I'm sure it's going to have years and years of use by not only Mount Pearl, but hopefully as a provincial facility and national as well. So, congratulations to everybody that was involved with that, because it really has turned out to be quite a success story.
Here.
Yesterday we attended Minister Denine's press conference on the Who Cares campaign, which is to recognize volunteerism. And coincidentally enough, in the paper on Saturday, there was a woman, Kathy Jackman, who was recognized as an unsung hero. Now, Kathy is actually not a resident of Mount Pearl, but she spends her volunteer time in Mount Pearl with Campia Gymnastics, hours and hours, actually, of her time. And I think it's important that we as a council recognize not just Kathy. I mean, Kathy is one of many, many volunteers, but for her to be pointed out and to see her efforts and what she has done on behalf of the gymnasts from Campia, it was really impressive. I must say, the article was excellent. So I think it's important that we acknowledge that as well, her commitment to Campia in Mount Pearl. And I believe that Kathy also won an award through the Sport Alliance, maybe last year or the year before. I can't remember what it was. Yes.
Executive of the year.
There you go. So, I mean, she's certainly very committed to the young people from our city, and I think that it's important that we acknowledge that as well. That's it.
Here. Thank you very much. Councillor Lane.
A couple of quick items. First one, I had a couple of calls actually from people who are adjacent to the new green space that we constructed up on Ingham and Holt and so on, where we removed the blacktop, and people are very pleased with what has been done there.
Right.
For sure, great job. But one of the things now that I've heard from a couple of people on is that people up there now tend to be going up there with their animals in an effort not to make a mess on their property. They'll just walk the animals over to the nice green space so the animal can, so their dog can, do what it has to do and then just leave without picking it up. So I have requested that a sign actually be put up there and a garbage can, and I'm wondering now maybe we should put one of those bag dispensers up there as well. And like I said, we'll put the sign up there, and hopefully people will cease doing that. The only other item I had, Your Worship, and it's another, I guess, beautification issue. By the way, I've seen that they've started work now down on Park Avenue, down to the entrance to the Newfoundland Trailway now. There was guys down there working there today. They put down some stones, they're planting some trees and stuff. I think they're doing some stuff by Park Place, so that's all great to see. But one other area that I'd like for us to have a look at, if we could, is this area actually on the map where these infill houses are going. If you're going up over the hill, up over the Farrell Drive, and you get there by the lift stations there, and then there's that playground that's there, it looks absolutely horrible. It really does, you know. The playground is fine, but if you look at that bank and that whole area all around it, it's like totally unkept. There's nothing there. Like, there's no reason why we couldn't dress that whole area up a little bit with some mulch and some nice ferns and plants and stuff too.
Maybe after the development is done, it might be a nice thing for next year.
But yeah, exactly. It won't be done this year, but I'd like to get it on the list, because if you take a drive up there, you'll notice going right up there, even on the other side, just below where these new houses are on the left, there's an area there below that where a house can't go. There's a guardrail actually up there because it drops off, and that looks absolutely horrible there as well, you know. So I would request that we, I guess maybe through Public Works, have a look at putting a plan in place. Maybe Mr. Philpott can look at putting a plan in place to do some beautification next year.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor. Nothing. Councillor Stoyles.
I just have one item, Your Worship. I received a letter, actually it came in the form of an email. I guess Lisa sent it, copied it and sent it to me from Mrs. Nixon on Spruce Avenue, and I'm going to forward down to the Public Works Department, and she talks about she's looking for a one-way street on Spruce, and a lot of traffic issues regarding speeding and stuff like that on Spruce. And I will pass it along, but I did want to mention it because she did send it to me, you know, several days ago. So I just wanted to mention in public that it will be forwarded to the right committee and will be dealt with here in council.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh.
One thing, and then I have a question. Your Worship, today I think we probably all realize that the Federal Minister of Transport is in town and is actually meeting the Board of Trade in St. John's. I think there was a luncheon meeting. I just want to comment that I know this has gotten a lot of earplay, particularly on the open line shows and a little bit in the print media in the last couple of weeks, but the Marine Atlantic ferry service is really, you know, continues to be pathetic. It was kind of interesting to note that the federal minister said today that when he assumed the portfolio, and I think he's only there about a year,
That's all.
that you know, he acknowledged that the system was on what he referred to as life support. I'm going to tell you, if it was on life support, then what happened, at least on this side of the Gulf this year, it was really near death, because when the CEO of Marine Atlantic actually makes a comment to the Truckers Association, that the gist of which says this: if you continue to make representation or to picket or provide any disruption to service, we're going to bar you from entering the ferries. Now, these are the very people who provide the produce, fresh fruit, vegetables, the meat, the building supplies and materials, the parts for our vehicles, and he's going to bar these people from getting on the ferry. You know, I know a lot has been said about it, Your Worship, but I'm going to tell you this. If Ontario or Quebec were needing a link, such as a ferry service, to their province, I'm going to guarantee you that the ferry service between North Sydney and Port aux Basques and or Argentia would be treated an awful lot differently than it's treated by Marine Atlantic today. It really is infamous for its poor service. It's terrible. I had some family members the week before last, actually, 3 weeks ago now, who had, from the time they left a family friend's home in North Sydney to the time they got to Argentia, they had, in fact, not only been given inappropriate or incorrect information, and it was a messenger service that was saying that the ferry was delayed by, no, it was that the ferry was about to dock in about 15 or 20 minutes, and the ferry was actually delayed by 6 hours. They were en route, straight time, 36 hours from North Sydney. My niece, who's 20 years old, and a 20-year-old can endure a lot of inconvenience, she had a posting on her Facebook page the next day, "Sucks to Marine Atlantic." I mean, this is just one of hundreds and hundreds of stories that can be told. And I know you, Your Worship, in your other capacity,
I've heard hundreds of them now.
Hundreds of them, and probably received many, many emails. But I just think it's pathetic. I guess we have to take the federal minister at his word. I'm not asking for council to do anything other than to highlight the issue today. But this service is in desperate need of fixing. But I can tell you this much. One of the things that the federal transport minister highlighted today was the vision, which is not half as good as what it's cracked up to be, and some of the other new vessels. But the real fixing is not with the vessels, it's with the attitude and the service delivery and the business model that's so lacking with Marine Atlantic, in my opinion. And I don't mind saying it, and I don't mind saying it publicly, that we deserve better. And I think, as I said before, that if this were any other province, I mean, now PEI has their fixed link. If this were any other province, it just wouldn't be tolerated, and you would not have a CEO threatening the Truckers Association. I didn't hear, and I didn't have time to check how the meeting with the Truckers Association went, but I understand that there was a meeting scheduled with the federal minister and the Truckers Association following the presentation to the Board of Trade. So I hope that some resolution to that issue has been made. But when you think about it, and I don't pretend to know the details well enough to know that a reservation system is good or bad or indifferent, but I will say this, that if you have essential goods and services that need to get to the island portion, you have to have some sort of a guarantee if you're a business trucker. And I have a very good personal friend of mine who was a former president of the Provincial Truckers Association and owns a trucking company in the province, who said they're treated almost with disdain. So I just wanted to highlight it because the minister is here today, and throw our support behind an improved service. It means a lot more money, and I think it means a complete refurbishing of the business plan and the attitude of Marine Atlantic. It is a terrible service. I understand that Mr. Templeton, the former chair of the board, challenged the Prime Minister. He said, "You can't comment on that service until you've come down and done it. You have to do it, you have to try it, you have to experience it, and then you'll know what you're talking about." When you fly in on a private jet and fly out on a private jet, you don't get to experience what people have to experience and endure every other day. And I think it's an important point to make. My second question was, have we, because I didn't get a chance this last few days to get up there, is Synergy back on track? Is there movement, development? Is there other things happening there now?
Mr. Lewis.
We have had meetings with the developers. They are in the process of hopefully to recommence that very shortly. They're putting all things in place with some new partners and arrangements.
So there's no new contractor there yet?
No, but they have already engaged new partners in that. Hopefully that will be there within a matter of days.
So hopefully it is back on track. Thank you. Councillor, thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Aker?
No, nothing, Your Worship. Thank you.
Nothing at all? Well, just before we adjourn, I would have thought, Councillor Aker, that you especially would have brought this matter up. As you know, your mayor took it on the chin this week. Our boys of summer were not this year up to the task. Nonetheless, I do believe that the senior ball team deserves congratulations for having gotten to the provincial championships, for having, I think, equipped themselves well. I was out of town for the weekend, and I was in an area where it was difficult to find out what was going on.
Couldn't get it anyway, where you were.
So it was, that's one thing. They could have communicated those a little better, I think. Now, once I heard the results, I didn't really care that much for them. So we're going to be probably at our next public council meeting, while we're still in summer mode, I'll be wearing a St. John's baseball team jersey, and we will fly the City of St. John's flag below ours for a week, as we do for others. It turns out this was a better bet than I could have lost. a number of mayors in this country and adjoining cities have had bets, and they've included everything from cases of champagne to, a full steer and things of that nature. So I feel I'm getting off a little light here. Congratulations to the players in St. John's, obviously, and congratulations to our players as well. Mount Pearl continues to be a town with a great sports history and a great sports future. And next year, I told Jim Hare today, with the senior hockey team, that I'm counting on him. There's big changes coming to the senior team this year. As we know, we've got Randy Pearson behind the bench. We've got a number of players coming to Mount Pearl. We're looking for a big, big year in hockey, and by next spring, our baseball team ought to be able to do it too. Go Blades, go.
We actually have a couple of, to mention this as well, the National Ball Hockey Championships were held this weekend as well, or the finals were held this weekend, and Newfoundland and Labrador won, and the final game was fabulous. A couple of Mount Pearl boys on that team, and they did a spectacular job. Young Pat O'Keefe, Terry Ryan.
Yeah.
So it was very impressive, and it made us very proud.
Good stuff. I will.
One very brief comment.
Okay.
And that's just to say, next week or at our next meeting, when that flag goes up, I'm so glad I'm going to be on vacation.
Oh, didn't I tell you? I'm on vacation with him. We'll move a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Walsh. We are adjourned. I hear you, brother.